Welcome boys and girls, Christine here with a discussion about Tzeentch and Kairos Fateweaver in Total War Warhammer 3 Immortal Empires, patch 6.1. Tzeentch did not receive a rework in the same way that Kislev received a rework, but there are still racial updates and Legendary Lord updates that they did get in this patch. Starting with Kairos' faction effects, he now has proper faction effects. He gains 5% character experience for all his lords, as well as gaining a minus 33% construction time for all buildings. That is a fairly substantial benefit that will help quite a bit in Kairos' campaign. That's the first thing. The second thing for Kairos specifically is that when you start this campaign, you now have two cults. One in Montfort over here, and you can use this cult to teleport Kairos over here if you so desire, though it is going to cost 300 grimoires, and also a cult over here in the Northern Castways. Now, there's actually another benefit tied to this. See, these cults are also going to grant you vision in this area. And the reason that's important is because these cults giving you this kind of vision will actually help you out in a pretty tangible way, in the sense that it will possibly allow you to get confederation with this faction of Tzeentch over here in the north. I don't have vision right here as a beginning campaign, but I'll be granted that vision very, very quickly. Or it might just be the quest battle, not quite entirely certain, but the cult should give you vision anyway. So by seeing this faction, you could potentially confederate this faction, and that is the greater demon of Tzeentch. So that is a nice benefit. So as opposed to getting the Everwatcher as a confederation option, good luck trying to do that. I mean, there's still a way. I kind of wish there was a way to guarantee they would get the Everwatcher as opposed to some annoying factors. But you can get a greater demon of Tzeentch over here with Vindex, and it's pretty easy. And you can also teleport Kairos right here in Montfort. Though keep in mind that will destroy the cult, and when you're playing a Tzeentch campaign, actually establishing cults does not work in the same way as it does for, say, Khorne. Khorne has a lot of good ways of establishing cult. The only way you can do that as Kairos is obviously using a cultist to do so. Beyond that, Kairos also gets a pretty substantial change over here with regards to Fragments of sorcery. So his skill line, if we look at his lord effects, so he has Fragments of sorcery, cooldown to all spells, barrier replenishment delay, ambush defense chance 50%. You have the skill line, which will finish unlocking by level 20, and it will grant you will naturally grant you certain spells. So you don't need to level up any spell skill line if you're playing as Kairos. Instead, you can focus on army skills. You do have a magic skill line in the sense of various winds of magic benefits and all that kind of stuff, but the spells themselves are unlocked naturally as you're leveling him up. You might unlock certain things slower, but the benefit there is you can use your skill points and other things like buffing your army. So that is pretty solid, pretty nice. Then you have the unique mechanic of Fragments of sorcery. Now, loading up a turn 29 campaign that I've been playing as Kairos, looking at the Fragments of sorcery, and yes, I know I should do better with item management, but here's the way this works. So you have these spells that get unlocked, these spell slots that get unlocked, and then you get to choose which ones you're going to use. Like, obviously, on a baseline level, you're going to have the Tzeentch spells, but you can switch to other spells as well from different schools of magic. So you can get metal spells, amber spear, beast, fire, etc. And you get to choose which spells you're going to use. The benefit that you can have here, and you can also get a passive ability for this special magical skill line, so you can get life bloom, etc. if you decide to spend the points over there. So Kindle, Flame, all that, Winds of Magic cost, passive abilities, etc. So those are the kind of benefits, and you do have all of these passive effects naturally. That is pretty damn strong, because when you combine all of these skills, it's pretty crazy. I gotta say, I haven't necessarily focused on that, because I did want to get my hands on, well, let's just say ambush success chance, bit of lightning strike, and then upkeep. Yeah, still working on that, though I probably would max out lightning strike over here. But that is how the fragments of sorcery do work for Kairos Fateweaver in his campaign. Is it really great as a system? Well, I think it's better than what we had before, but I would say Kairos' campaign benefits significantly from the fact that you do have these cults, and you can teleport to these cults. And one thing to point out about Tzeentch is that, like all other demonic factions, you can vassalize through diplomacy. Obviously, Sinnelleos is focused on vassalization far more so than others, but allows you for an insane level of power and flexibility in a campaign. Like over here, I've vassalized Grom and Elfarian. Yes, I know, it's ridiculous. Granted, I did have to wipe out Slaanesh in this situation, but hey, it worked out, right? So, you know, it is a system that works. It is a system that gets the job done. Weirdly enough, he's not actually willing to give that to me in exchange for the Shrine of Cain. But, you know, we can always trade the Shrine of Cain to Lariel. Though, she's not going to like me. Aversion still plays a pretty substantial role. And I also managed to vassalize this faction right here, though I sold the territory to the Demon Prince to get the vassalization agreement with him. So I have Elfarian, the Demon Prince, Grom, and Warzag. Oh yes, Warzag. That's the insane part. See, one of the objectives you have in your campaign is actually to wipe out Krokkar and all that. That is an annoying thing to do. Like, dealing with Teclis is one thing. Having to go over here to wipe out Krokkar is a bit annoying. But if you wipe out Warzag, or vassalize Warzag, which you can do very easily, just take over this province over here, ignore Teclis even. Take this province, sell it to Warzag, you can get the vassal agreement. He will do so for you. And this also grants you the ability of getting things like Rogue Idols and a bunch of different greenskin units. The only one I've had to been forced to fight is Axial. And yes, I did get Vindix over here in the south. So I would say it's a far more interesting and dynamic campaign compared to what we had before. Like, I dealt with Axiatl, I dealt with the Nurgle faction, and I've ignored the Slaanesh faction. I can even get a non-aggression pact if I so desire with them. Or maybe even vassalize them, you know, just start working on that process. But I don't like the Southern Castaways. It's a good area from an economic standpoint, but it's just like it takes a while to, you know, to really get going over here. In terms of some other things, like, yes, the changing of ways remains the same, and yes, you still need to unlock things for research, which makes a lot of the trolling you could do there annoying to unlock. And yeah, it is annoying to do it on the AI. You still use Winds of Magic manipulation in provinces in order to get benefits in them. That's still the same thing as it was before when we're looking at this this situation. So that does still work as it did before in the context of in context of a campaign. But there are some minor changes in regards to settlements, though I feel like CA really does need to do a lot more. To be sure, the campaign is better, but there's still a couple of issues, critical issues. One of the bigger issues that Tzeentch has is an issue of casualty replenishment. So Tzeentch has genuinely one of the worst casualty replenishment situations in the game. You do have a casualty replenishment hero now. They changed that after SOC came out, so the horrors now give casualty replenishment. But the problem is that if you don't have a hero for casualty replenishment, your casualty replenishment is going to be probably the worst in the game because of the barrier. I think there's some interaction between barrier and casualty replenishment on the campaign map that really hurts you in that respect. However, Tzeentch is certainly very powerful, but it creates the kind of dynamic where early on you will be fighting a lot of battles manually, though you probably would do so anyway for the best result, but you have to fight them manually, not because you can't win them or because they require any kind of strategy. They don't. Like, Tzeentch has a really powerful unit roster, Forsaken of Tzeentch. Like, even if you don't own Shadows of Change, and there's not that many reasons to own Shadows of Change. I mean, there's some reasons, but like, I would dare say Champions of Chaos is just the flat-out better DLC. Like, if you want a better unit roster, like, I think the Champions of Chaos situation is better. You do get Sangors if you own it, but you don't need them. You can handle it just Forsaken of Tzeentch. But yeah, it's just like a bit more fluff to the unit roster. But it is annoying having to construct a building to tier 3 just for those horrors, for casualty replenishment. And you can only recruit them at tier 3. I think it would be better if we could recruit them at tier 2, especially for Kairos. So I think like just having this here, like increased capacity at tier 3, okay, fair enough. But forcing me to recruit, to build up all the way to tier 3 just to recruit a hero is an annoyance, as far as I see it. One thing they didn't improve on in any way, and I think they should have, is with regards to resource building. So one of the problems that has existed for Tzeentch for pretty much ever since the game launched really lies with the fact that the resource buildings are just giving you an income modifier and a couple of grimoires. And the thing about the income modifier, it's completely meaningless, because you also have the warp plinth, which is flat out better. I mean, yes, you won't get the grimoires, but you actually get double the income from all buildings over here through it. Now they did, I think they may have added a gradual effect. Not entirely certain on that subject. Let me just take a look at a province which doesn't have maxed out. So yeah, no, it's still the same, I think, in that respect. Anyway. So, if you have Winds of Magic higher, you get a lot more income. Actually, they did add I think they added a modifier to the income building. So, depend on various stages of Winds of Magic in a province, you can get, maybe? Yeah, you do get different stages of extra income with that. Whereas for the income modifier, it's the same. Just, if it's higher, you get more. If it's not, if it's strong or higher, yeah. Whereas with the income building, it's like if it's tempestuous, you get extra income. So you do earn more money in a Tzeentch campaign. But essentially, in every Tzeentch province, you're going to always want to build the same damn things every single time. You do have a decent level of money you can earn. The income buildings aren't expensive, and they do generate a fair amount of cash. Maybe they changed the cost of it, not 100% certain, but these income modifier buildings, it's kind of ridiculous as well, because you have the library over there. That's the same building as in minor settlements, but it's a tier higher to get the full effect. Just weirdness that I had hoped Creative Assembly would improve on with Tzeentch. They didn't, so it's disappointing on that perspective. It does work for what it's worth. Having 4,000 income, 1,500, 2,000 almost. Obviously, the income is there, right? But it's just like that whole process of just like building this in every province, right? It means less unit diversity because you're not constructing other buildings. Like, you don't have the flexibility because you need the money. It's not like Tzeentch armies are necessarily the cheapest in the world either. Like, you look at the cost of various things like Sangors or Forsaken of Tzeentch, like, yeah, 175 or 200. And there's no reason, I think they changed some of the Marauder recruitment situation, but yeah, there's no reason if you're playing a Tzeentch campaign to ever recruit Marauders of Tzeentch. But that's a general issue with the demonic factions. I guess it makes sense, like Warriors of Cash would be focused on Norscan more, but it makes sense to have them in the roster, right? But it's like, there's no reason. However, and they're tier 1 units, right? So that's a different discussion. However, there are some improvements over here with regards to unit recruitment. If I am not mistaken, they did change a couple of things around. So actually, they did change one thing around for certain. So they made the cast Sorcerer added to a tier 3 barrack. So all your heroes can now be recruited at tier 2 with a Cultist, or tier 3, and all heroes increase capacity at tier 3. I believe the Cultist was... Did it require tier 4? I think it did, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not going to load up a, switch a patch. It's actually a big patch. Kind of. Anyway, but you do have both Chaos Warriors of Tzeentch and Chaos Warriors of Tzeentch with Halberds, and you get both variants of Chosen at tier 4. Then you have Chaos Knights of Tzeentch with Lances and regular ones, and the only things that are available at tier 5 are Doom Knights, Soul Grinders, Lord of Change, and Mutalisks. The problem I have with it is that there's no reason to get this building except for hero. There's no reason to get this building whatsoever, like, except global recruitment, but it's fluff, right? Like, you only get it much later on. Bothering with cockatrice, like, Forsaken of Tzeentch can defeat any foe you deal with, so this entire building chain is kind of fluff, in a lot of ways. And you're better off going for increased hero capacity in your settlements. It's only much later on. So, like, there's no reason to bother with these two buildings. So that means you're not... I mean, there are reasons for unit recruitment, but for hero recruitment purposes, right? And even if they did move one hero from one building to another, I feel like one building chain should be removed, and just like this building with something else merged together, that would just be my perspective. Or maybe, you know, add the Chaos Warriors over, from this add the Tangor's Chaos Warriors to this building, and then, you know, just merge the effects of this building chain over here to something else. I don't know, just some ideas over there, have some clues. But I just don't find myself ever really wanting to go for change bringers in a Tzeentch campaign because it's just inconvenient. Like, the success of a campaign is building as many armies as quickly as possible that are good enough to deal with the problem. Like, Tzeentch can get pretty powerful armies from tier 2. Another reason you don't necessarily want to go for diversity is demons in general are just really bad. Like, it's not even a durability question in battle. It's like, it's the problem of auto-resolve and the fact, like, if they do start routing in battle, like, Chaos Warriors will not rout that easily, and Chaos Warriors can take significantly more damage than any demon can. So I think, like, Creative Assembly needs to revise how they do that auto-resolve, and also understand that having an unbreakable unit that gets destroyed in a battle with only a chance to recover it, and only a chance, like Demon Reforging, is not really the best system. Now, one could argue that it's the system the Undead use, the Vampire Counts. Well, the reason it works with Vampire Counts, I wish to emphasize, one, when you're playing Vampire Counts, you don't want your units to be obliterated. Two, the reason that works is Vampire Counts have that entire system of Raise Dead where, yeah, you might lose a tier 5 unit, you might lose an entire army of tier 5 units and not get anything back, and then you can recruit another one instantly. You have severe recruitment limitations if you're playing a demon campaign. All of them. Doesn't matter if it... Like, even Nurgle, who doesn't have the recruitment slot limitation, but you obviously have limits on how many units you can have in that shared recruitment pool. So your units are valuable if you're playing demons, but then they take this idea of, like, reforging units. It works for Undead. It works very well for Undead. It doesn't work for demons. It is an issue I have with Khorne. It is an issue I have with Nurgle. Don't get me started on Slaanesh. So that would be the kind of thing I would like to change. So replenishment still an issue. The economy, there's a bunch of fluff buildings, but for what it is worth, it is a much better campaign situation. And I'm gonna say it outright, I think Kairos is actually much better to play than the freaking Changeling right now, because the Changeling is a nothing, no risk campaign, right? Whereas Kairos, you do have risk, but you also have reward. Then you have at least some kind of math flexibility. I think it would be better if we could decide where those cults are ourselves, as opposed to always having them in certain cell locations every time we start a campaign. So the variety is not necessarily going to be the best in the world. Certainly not an Arbol level, but at least there is a level of flexibility that was non-existent before. And the important part about that is we avoid the worst aspect of Kairos' campaign, which is actually his starting position. Like, his starting position is awful because the Southlands is awful. You do still have the problem of your long campaign victory condition requiring you to go deal with Kugath, which, yeah, that's not great. But you know what? You can just send the cultist and then summon Kairos over there. But you know, it's annoying. It's annoying. It's better, but I do think that there's more work to be done, quite a bit more work. But I get it. Probably only a handful of people worked on this. For what they did, I think they did a good job with this. But there was more to be done. And maybe we will see a proper Tzeentch rework coming at one point. Maybe a DLC, maybe not. We don't know. Kwasine signing out, and stay tuned for more.